Basically, potatoes historically in the UK planted for main crop are planted anywhere from early March through to the beginning of June. But about 50% of the UK acreage in most seasons goes in the middle 2 weeks of April. So therefore timing is really about when it's suitable to go, and the fact that most growers plant in that period, generally a survey would say, well, that's the most suitable period when soils are dry enough to cultivate, with the exception of perhaps 2012 when it was very wet, but also recognising that temperatures are crucial when planting potatoes. So if it's cold and wet following planting, then crops take longer to emerge, and really there can be very little beneficial effect from planting in early March when temperature more conducive to early April. By that time, soil conditions are generally better, they're generally drier. Each day brings a progressive drying cycle, and we generally move towards more favourable soil conditions. Faced with the fact that cultivating soil when it's too wet and deforms plastically can create yield losses of the order of 3 to 5 tonnes, many growers are unaware of that because it's unseen. That sort of time lag that we can get into more favourable conditions can be 2, 3, 4 days, and that's the sort of time period that growers have if they're cultivating in early April. Given the fact that late season, when rainfall comes, of growers planting into May, there's less opportunity for growers to have that delay in planting before they start running into potential yield losses because the season is truncated, because there isn't enough time to actually grow the crop in before it needs to be desiccated. Potatoes are a highly valuable crop to grow, and therefore they are grown on soils in many cases that might be marginal for productivity. But faced with many of these soils can actually be highly valuable in terms of producing what the customer or even the consumer wants in terms of skin finish, they will continue to grow potatoes. If you look at the amount of land in Essex that now grows potatoes faced with what was grown in the late 80s and early 90s, it's significantly reduced. People still do a very good job, but we've moved largely off that land and specialist growers have taken over that mantle. In the West, where we are today, there is the confounding factor that there are many soils which are of higher clay content, so clay loam soils, which in the East we generally aren't as used to, but you're faced with an increased rainfall in the West, which basically means those soils are generally wetter when people come to cultivate. So the timeliness is even more crucial when you work in an environment when soils will deform plastically because of their inherent nature and because they're likely to have less plantable days because of the rainfall pattern in April and May.